so now let's continue discussing more about infections, more about infectious diseases by discussing the chain of infection. We attribute the um, we attribute the nourishment of pathogens to reservoirs. So reservoirs of infection could be a human, an animal, or a non-living matter or a non-living thing that actually provides a good condition or um, a set of good conditions for the survival of the pathogen. So they serve as a nursery for the pathogen to thrive, divide, and become infectious. No? So some humans are no some humans that are affected by the infectious disease are obviously or automatically typified as carriers of the infectious particles, infectious pathogen. Other humans may carry the pathogen but are not affected by the spectrum of signs and symptoms that the pathogen may show, no, when once it causes infection or colonization. So those are called asymptomatic or latent human carriers. A while ago, I mentioned about zoonotic diseases. So those diseases can be acquired from animals, and uh, majority of non-communicable diseases caused by pathogens are actually coming from or are actually nursed in non-living reservoirs. Those that can be seen in water, in food, or fertilizer. Those microbes, pathogens that stay on those locations and proliferate to a certain extent that they will be able to cause infection. So disease transmission can be of different routes, different pathways. I have identified five pathways. First one is contact transmission, which is said to be direct person to person transmission of the pathogen. Samples of this include when we uh, shake hands with a person infected with flu virus, when we have sex with a person infected with a sexually transmitted parasite or microbe, right? When we kiss a certain person infected with a possible microbial pathogen, that's contact transmission. Indirect contact transmission, on the other hand, is described as the transfer of microbes by means of a infected animate or inanimate matter known as a fomite, non-living transfer. Normally, soiled garments, soiled goods containing the pathogen. If an uninoculated or a healthy individual uses them or accidentally gets a pathogen from them, that's indirect contact transmission. We also have droplet transmission, in which pathogens become aerosolized, so they are engulfed in fluid droplets. Normally, when we sneeze or when we talk, and our saliva gets out of our mouth, like the picture represented here on the right. All right. The vehicle transmission is when the pathogen uses the non-living reservoir like water, food, or air, right? Water or foodborne bacteria like the enterics or other gram-positive cocci like Staphylococcus can use vehicle transmission. Some viruses may be transmitted by means of the airborne viruses. It's also vehicle transmission. And we also have transmission by means of mechanical or phoretic and biological vectors. Parasites, no, are especially protozoan parasites, are transferred by means of biological or phoretic vectors. Okay, so now that we've talked about the mechanisms in which pathogens can be transmitted and where pathogens nurse themselves, let us also introduce the concepts of portal, of entry.